Distinguished particle physicist in North America, summarized what I've been trying to say so far with this quotation. The historical fact is that Christians believed in the beginning of time, while scientific materialists strongly preferred the idea of an ageless universe. In 1946, well, let me say that prior to 1946, I think most scientists were happy with the idea that the universe was infinitely old. The so-called steady-state theory, steady-state hypothesis. This began to change in 1946 when the Russian-born American physicist George Gamow proposed that the primeval fireball, or Big Bang, was an intense concentration of pure energy. It was the source of all the matter that now exists in the entire universe. The Big Bang theory predicts that all the galaxies in the universe should be rushing away from each other at high speeds as a result of that initial Big Bang. 19 years later, the 1965 observation of the microwave background radiation by Arnold Penzias and Robert Wilson convinced most scientists of the validity of the Big Bang theory of the origin of the universe. Further observations in 1992 and to the present, and we'll talk about these, have moved the Big Bang theory from a consensus view to one that is nearly unanimous among cosmologists. There was an origin to the universe, perhaps 13.7 billion years ago. And I might be ready for another overhead now. Let me provide a definition of the Big Bang theory. The hot Big Bang theory states that the entire physical universe, all the matter and energy, and even the four dimensions of space and time, burst forth from a state of infinite or near infinite density, temperature, and pressure. Quite an extraordinary sequence of events. My Berkeley colleague, Joseph Silk, described the evidence for the Big Bang theory in this way in Science magazine a couple of years ago. Silk said, "The hot Big Bang model is enormously successful. It provides the framework for understanding the expansion of the universe, the cosmic background radiation, and the primeval abundance of light elements, as well as a general picture of how the structure seen in the universe today was formed." Things become controversial after this. Let me quote from Arnold Penzias 6 months before he received the Nobel Prize for his work. This is from the New York Times. Penzias said this: "The best data we have concerning the Big Bang are exactly what I would have predicted had I nothing to go on but the 5 books of Moses, the Psalms, the Bible as a whole." More recently, when Penzias was asked why was it that so many cosmologists dreamed of a universe that was infinitely old, Penzias made this statement. He said, "Well, some people are uncomfortable with the purposefully created world. To come up with things that contradict purpose, they tend to speculate about things they haven't seen." Now, in my mind, the most brilliant of all the exponents of the steady-state hypothesis was Dennis Schaefer. Dennis Schaefer fits into our story, also because he was the PhD thesis advisor of Stephen Hawking, the most brilliant, I think it's fair to say, of the steady-state hypothesis people. And about 10 years ago, he gave up. About 10 years ago, he said, "I give in. The universe did have a beginning." But he did this in an extremely clever way. Let me quote what he said to a press conference. He said, "The steady-state theory has a sweep and beauty that for some unaccountable reason the architect of the universe appears to have overlooked." A tremendous explanation for any failure in science, I might add. I had a good idea, it's just that God's idea was better. The event that Stephen Hawking described as the greatest discovery of the 20th century, the greatest scientific discovery of the 20th century, was reported in major newspapers all around the world on April 24th, 1992. This was the observation of the Big Bang ripples observed by the Kobe satellite of NASA, Kobe Cosmic Background Explorer. And George Smoot, the team leader who received the Nobel Prize last year for this work, made a remarkable statement to the New York Times, which they picked up and put in big letters on the front page. Smoot said, "It's like looking at God." Now, George Smoot and I were classmates together at MIT. For those of you that don't know MIT, we think of it as the IIT Mumbai of North America. Smoot and I both arrived in September of 1962, and we both graduated on time in May of 1966. And I have to tell you, in all honesty, that I did not think that Smoot was going to get the Nobel Prize. I really didn't think he was going to have any academic career at all. But we can talk privately about my feelings at the time. Obviously, I was wrong. 1 week after these Big Bang ripples experiments, the experiments Hawking described as the greatest discovery of the 20th century, a prominent science historian wrote this in the Los Angeles Times. These findings, now available, make the idea that God created the universe a more respectable hypothesis today than at any time in the last 100 years. So, beginning there, George Smoot published a book called Wrinkles in Time, and this is his take on his interpretation of his observations. Smoot said, "There is no doubt that a parallel exists between the Big Bang as an event and the Christian notion of creation from nothing." These kinds of experiments have continued, even continuing to the present day, with the Wilkinson microwave anisotropy probe. Charles Bennett is the team leader at Johns Hopkins University, and he made this statement 3 years ago. He said, "The Wilkinson probe was launched in 2001, and it has now mapped the temperature variations, or anisotropy, of the cosmic microwave background radiation over the full sky, and with unprecedented accuracy and precision." And even more recently, these findings have been described in Science magazine by Adrian Cho. Her article entitled "Long-Awaited Data Sharpened Picture of the Universe's Birth." So these ideas are still somewhat controversial, but becoming less so. Let me summarize what I've attempted to say so far. By definition, time is that dimension in which cause and effect phenomena take place. No time, no cause and effect. If time's beginning is concurrent with the beginning of the universe, as the space-time theorem says, then the cause of the universe must be some entity operating in a time dimension completely independent of and pre-existent to the time dimension of the cosmos. In other words, there must be some extra dimensionality. This conclusion is powerfully important to our understanding of who God is and who or what God is not. The Big Bang Theory tells us that the Creator is transcendent, operating beyond the dimensional limits of the universe. It tells us that God is not the universe itself, nor is God contained within the universe. Now, Stephen Hawking